Okay, so you want to own a real estate business. You have seen the signs on the highway. You have watched the agents drive around in nice cars. You have heard the stories about people who bought a few houses and retired by 40. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you have been doing the math. Here is the problem. The math most people are doing is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Completely wrong. Because what you see on the outside of the real estate industry, the sold signs, the open houses, the 5% commission on a $500,000 home, has almost nothing to do with what the business actually looks like from the inside. And the gap between those two pictures is where most people lose everything. Before we talk about money, we need to agree on what we are even talking about. Because real estate business is not one thing. It is at least 7 completely different businesses, each with a different cost structure, a different risk profile, and a different way of making money. The first model is a brokerage. This is the company that contracts with agents to represent buyers and sellers. The brokerage takes a cut of every commission. Low starting capital, but very unpredictable income. The second model is direct property investment. You buy buildings. You hold them. You wait for them to go up in value while a tenant pays down your mortgage. The third model is property management. You do not own the buildings. You just run them for someone else, collecting rent, handling repairs, screening tenants, and you charge the owner a monthly percentage fee for doing it. This is the model that generates the steadiest income of all. The fourth model is real estate development. You buy land or a rundown building, you build or rebuild something, and you sell it at a much higher price than what you spent. This is where the biggest profits live, and the biggest disasters. Then there is wholesaling, house flipping, and rental portfolio investing. Each one operates on different numbers. Each one will destroy you in a completely different way if you go in without understanding the economics. Most people who say they want to start a real estate business mean a brokerage. So that is where we begin. But by the end of this, you will understand why the smartest people in this industry eventually move away from selling and toward owning. When a house sells, the money does not simply move from buyer to seller. It splinters across an entire ecosystem of businesses before anyone takes home a dollar. Say a house sells for $500,000 in a typical American market. The moment that sale closes, a chain reaction begins. First, the seller's existing mortgage gets paid off completely. That money goes straight to the bank, not to the seller, not to the agent. Then governments take their cut. In the United Kingdom, stamp duty land tax on a home at this price reaches 5% under standard bands. In parts of Australia, the state land transfer duty averages between 3 and 5% of the transaction value, and foreign buyers pay an additional surcharge reaching 9% on top of that. Then professional services collect their fees. The title insurance company guarantees clean legal ownership and charges between $1,000 and $3,000. The closing attorney takes $500 to $1,500. The appraiser who verified the home's value earlier took between $300 and $1,000. Then come the real estate commissions. After the August 2024 National Association of Realtors settlement, the average total commission in the United States sits at approximately 5.7% of the sale price. On a $500,000 home, that is $28,500, split between 2 brokerages representing the buyer and the seller, and every person who touched the transaction: the lender, the inspector, the stager, the photographer, the contractor who fixed the broken step. All collected their piece before the seller saw a $1 transaction. A dozen businesses getting paid. Now imagine you want to be one of those businesses. Here is what it actually costs to get started. Licensing and regulatory compliance comes first. A brokerage owner must hold an active state broker's license, requiring pre-licensing education, a state examination, and formal corporate registration fees ranging from $500 to $3,000. Then errors and omissions insurance, professional liability coverage that protects you when a transaction goes wrong and a client sues. Budget between $800 and $1,500 per year, then the office. A traditional brokerage needs a visible, professional physical location to attract agents and clients. Commercial office space in a mid-tier American city runs $2,000 to $8,000 per month depending on location and square footage. Then technology. A customer relationship management system to track leads costs between $25 and $300 per user per month, with setup often exceeding $10,000 upfront. A professional website with a live property search feed runs $1,500 to $5,000 to build. The full enterprise technology stack, accounting software, document management, electronic signature platforms, adds another several thousand annually. Then marketing. Digital advertising, social media campaigns, physical signage, and local brand building for a startup brokerage realistically runs between $6,000 and $24,000 in the first year alone. Professional photography and drone video production for listings runs $3,000 to $10,000 annually. Legal fees for corporate formation and ongoing compliance add another $1,000 to $5,000. Total first-year capitalization for a legitimate brokerage operation, somewhere between $50,000 and $120,000 before a single transaction closes. And here is what finishes most new businesses. A standard real estate sales cycle takes between 180 and 360 days, from first contact with a potential client to a closed transaction. That means every dollar spent on advertising in January may not produce a commission check until October. Every monthly expense incurs from day one. The revenue does not arrive for months. The businesses that fail, and the majority of them do, fail because they run out of cash before the first deal closes. Not because the business model was wrong, because they did not enter with enough capital to survive the gap. The structural cash flow mismatch of real estate is one of the most dangerous in any service industry. Compounding this is the cost of finding a client in the first place. Real estate is one of the most saturated service industries that exists. In almost every major city, thousands of licensed agents and hundreds of brokerages compete for the same buyers and sellers. This competition drives digital advertising costs dramatically higher. In competitive markets, a single click from someone searching for homes on Google can cost between $5 and $15 in paid search advertising. Since only 1 to 2% of website visitors ever become actual paying clients, the company must generate between 50 and 100 clicks, at $5 to $15 each, just to find a single potential lead. And most of those leads require months of nurturing before they close a transaction. On top of this, new brokerages face what can simply be called the trust deficit. When someone is about to spend the largest amount of money they have ever spent in their life, they do not choose the brokerage that opened last year. They choose the name they have seen for 20 years. They choose the company their parents used. They choose the brand that shows up on every corner. Breaking through that brand trust barrier requires sustained marketing spending that a brand new business can barely afford, while also paying rent, salaries, and software subscriptions every single month. The only path through this phase is entering with a cash reserve large enough to cover every monthly expense for at least 12 months without earning a dollar of revenue. Assuming a business survives the early losses, here is where the revenue actually comes from, and which streams matter most for long-term health. Sales commissions are the most visible source. The brokerage collects a percentage of every transaction, retains a portion of that commission, and distributes the rest to the representing agent. On a standard $500,000 home with a 2.88% listing commission, the brokerage collects $14,400. At a 30% retention split, the brokerage keeps $4,320. After franchise royalty fees and overhead allocation, the net profit per deal is often under $2,000. Across 100 transactions per year, the brokerage might generate $200,000 in gross retained commission. Against overhead costs of $120,000 to $200,000 annually, the margin is thin. Rental placement fees add a second stream. When a landlord needs a tenant, the brokerage markets the vacancy, screens applicants, and executes the lease. The standard fee equals 1 full month's rent. On a $2,000 per month apartment, that is $2,000 for a few weeks of work. Property management fees are where the real defensive income lives. A management company charges 8 to 12% of the gross monthly rent to oversee daily operations, tenant relations, and maintenance coordination for a property owner. These fees arrive every single month, whether or not any homes are selling. A brokerage managing 100 properties at an average rent of $2,000 per month, charging a 10% fee, collects $20,000 monthly, $240,000 per year, completely independent of the sales market. Beyond these core streams sit referral fees from other markets, commercial leasing advisory work, developer partnership agreements, and direct investment management, each adding another layer of income that does not evaporate when the sales cycle slows. The most profitable real estate companies build multiple streams flowing simultaneously. They are never entirely at the mercy of a single market condition. Let us trace exactly what happens to the money inside a single standard transaction. A house sells for $500,000. The total commission at 5.7% is $28,500. The listing brokerage receives $14,400. The buyer's brokerage receives the remaining $14,100. From the listing brokerage's $14,400, the business retains 30%, $4,320, and pays the listing agent 70%, which is $10,080. After a 6% franchise royalty of $259 and the allocation of shared overhead costs, the brokerage's actual profit on this single transaction sits somewhere between $500 and $2,000. On the agent's side, the $10,080 gross split gets eroded quickly. Professional photography and drone production for the listing cost $1,500. The paid digital advertising that brought this specific client in cost $1,200 to attribute. Fuel, vehicle wear, and licensing fees add another $550. That leaves $6,330 before taxes. After self-employment taxes and federal income taxes, which for a freelance agent in the United States total approximately 30%, the agent takes home roughly $4,431 on a $500,000 transaction. Less than 1% of the sale price reaches the hands of the person who spent 6 months earning it. This is not an argument that agents are underpaid. It is an argument that the individual transaction model, at its core,